Okay, welcome everybody to the December 11th LF Decentralized Trust Technical Advisory Council meeting. As you are probably all aware, but for those of you who might not be, two things that we have to abide by on the call. The first is our antitrust policy, so we need to be aware of and not participate in any activities that are prohibited under any of the antitrust and competition laws across the world. The second thing that we have to abide by is our code of conduct. It is linked here in the agenda. Everybody is welcome, but we need to be respectful of others on the call, their opinions and ideas. For announcements today, we have the Dev Weekly Developer Newsletter that goes out each Friday. If you do have something that you would like to include in that newsletter, please do leave a comment for consideration on the link here that is in the agenda. The second announcement is that the Maintainer Days registration is open. If you haven't yet registered, there is a link here in the agenda to register for the Maintainer Days. Um, And it is free for all attendees and everybody who wants to register. The maintainers of projects will be welcome to attend the member summit as well. So if you would like to also attend that, even though you're not part of the LFTT member company, and you are a project maintainer, you can attend that member summit in addition to the maintainer days. A reminder that the self-nominations for the TAC chair are due tomorrow. So the election then would be held the following week. So if you would like to run for the TA chair or vice chair, please do let David know. I think he sent out an email, so please do get that for self-nominations. Based on our discussion last week, I did.
And I think we lost her. Hello?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, looks like it.
Well, do we know alternate ways to reach out to Tracy?
Arun, can you speak up and say that again, please?
Oh, I was wondering if there is an alternate way to reach out to Tracy. Maybe we can ask her to join from our phone or so, and one of us can share the agenda.
Yeah. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't know if she has a phone or what her phone status is.
And maybe Raya or like David, we can pause the recording for some time.
Yeah, I mean, we could also just give her a minute, and if she's not here, maybe Arun, you could keep the rest, get going with the rest of the agenda, perhaps.
Sure, David.
But I'll look on Discord. Yeah, imagine she will try to rejoin if she can.
Mm-hmm. Is she at IKEA again? uh,
Well, I mean, just to respect everyone's time, and I know Sophie's here, maybe do we want to move forward with the agenda?
Arun, can you do that?
Yes. One last question. I'm checking with Tracy if she can join from her phone. Okay. Let me bring up my screen and I'll share the agenda. Okay. So the last we heard from Tracy was we have the new TAC chair election coming up. So if you have not nominated your name already, please do so by end of day on 12th, which is tomorrow for majority of the folks on the call. And please do it so that it's um, like we can discuss like few things that David brought up in the email as well. If you are worried about the responsibilities and what that might entail and all that, right? We can bring those discussions up. And meanwhile, we can also have those conversations on Discord. And so the next week's TAC meeting will have new members joining us, and we'll have new members get all those questions answered. We'll also have December 25th and Jan 1st meetings cancelled due to holidays. And that brings to end of announcements or scheduled announcements. I would like to take a pause and hear if somebody else have any other announcements to bring up. Not. So we have received quarterly reports from Rojo Identis around Loch Ness. I'd like to take a pause and hear back if any of the TAC members have any open comments or concerns, questions on any of these reports. Probably take that as a no, but I request all TAC members to please go and um, review the reports and yeah, and feel free to suggest if any improvements can be done, maybe for the next TAC, the incoming TAC, and also for project teams to adopt to if they need to supplement their reports with additional information. And with that, regarding overdue reports, we do have now Trust over IP team. The last status that we know per the TAC meeting, the recent TAC meeting, is Dan, if I'm not wrong, like you will reach out and Wenjing, I believe like you're connected in addressing all the open questions and concerns from TOIP and it all the recordings, all the meeting information about within the TOIP community, all of that is being recorded. So this there needs to be sync up on like how we get those reports out from TOIP. So that's probably still an open. And yes, Bevel now be moving to a lab. We'll probably remove that from having it in an agenda from audio reports. So I did reach out to Firefly, Besu, and Caliper teams. I heard back from Enrique that Firefly report will be available soon, later today. So we should be good on that. And Caliper team requested for an extension. They said like year end is tedious for them with all the additional work. So they would like to get an extension for a week. Are there any concerns or objections to that? No. I'll I'll need to check. I believe somebody raised their
Yeah,
hand, but
so
I'm unable to.
that was just me, Aaron. Yeah, I was just going to say no. I don't think we have any objections to that particularly. I don't. It seems perfectly reasonable.
Martin. Thank you. And I haven't heard back from Besu team, but if you're connected to the project maintainers, please do let them know. There is also an open issue on GitHub within the Besu repository, but I haven't heard back anything from the maintainers yet.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that one. I might end up having a sync with Justin at some point. One thing I notice is, yeah, I can mention on the contributor call that Bessie run. The next one isn't until the day before Christmas Eve. So whether or not that call actually happens, I'm not sure. But if I do have a sync with Justin in the meantime, I'll mention it.
Thank you, Matthew.
Also, I guess Kanchan will be on next week's TAC call as well. So we could mention it to Kanchan when she joins her first call next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, Matthew. So with that, we'll move to the today's agenda items, to the discussion items. So I see Tracy on the call. Tracy, I'm not sure who would take over the first agenda item on presentation.
Yeah, so this is for Sophie. Sophie's going to do the presentation.
Hello.
Hello. So Sophie will hand over this to you. So feel free to share your screen and take over from here.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. All right, so oops, wrong button. Sorry, I managed to start from the wrong side. I was checking it before doing this presentation. So thank you everybody for having me here today. I am so grateful, and also I'm so happy to talk to you a little bit about a repository inside Hyro called the Python SDK. So we code the ability to use Python to connect with the Hedera network. So you don't need to use JavaScript or anything like that. You can just use Python code. And this is one of our newest repositories in Hyro. I think that Python SDK has existed for around 1 year time. And since then, we have seen lots of, we faced lots of new challenges, and we were coding it from scratch, and everything was really exciting. And one of the recent opportunities that we took on was Hacktoberfest. So I want to talk a little bit about what happened during Hacktoberfest and what we are getting up to after Hacktoberfest, because it's presented some good things to work on. So for reference, the Python SDK team at the time of Hacktoberfest was like so. So we have 2 maintainers, 2 committers. Generally, this is like volunteer basis or like in your spare time. And Hacktoberfest really increased the activity inside the Python SDK. So you can see here we had a 660% increase in developer commit activity to the Python SDK. And here's just a little snapshot of what happened. So we just during Hacktoberfest, merged 74 pull requests from 39 different authors covering all kinds of areas inside the Python SDK. So we were extremely busy, and take a look at what we were doing originally. So originally we were just doing like 5 commits per week. So massive increase in developer activity during Hacktoberfest. Here you can see some screenshots. There are many more screenshots of these new contributors that actually wrote code for the Python SDK. Python is one of the, a really user-friendly language, and it's widely taught. So this was like a nice entry point for many developers. How did we attract so many new developers? So in our SDK summary, we have these labels, and I can annotate. We labeled things like good first issues, good first issue, and that means we started to rank on the GitHub page for good first issues. And we also had this really important label at the time of Hacktoberfest, and that meant that we could rank for Hacktoberfest for good first issues. So that really, really helped. And we were actually top quite regularly at the time. To get to the top, we just basically did lots and lots of updates. And that naturally happened because we had lots of people coming in. So it created this kind of really positive cycle. So even though we were new, even though we were quite a small project at the time, it was really great to see the developer community kind of show up. What did we do to attract all these new developers? We also documented our templates. We have like really nice good first issues now, and I'll show you like an example of our even more modern ones that we have. We give really great feedback that's timely, that's informative, that's helpful. We give people information to links and everything like that. So people are onboarded quickly and they can make progress. So that's really nice to see. And people are so grateful. Like talking to the developers, they're like, oh, thank you. This is my first contribution. There were some challenges, but I'm so happy to have overcome them. And yeah, so we were able to onboard lots and lots of developers. And talking to some of these, we learned that they were mostly computer science students or computer science graduates, math related. So yeah, they were very skilled, very motivated, and it's great to have them on board in the project. So I'm just going to scroll through some of these and I'll show you what's happened since. So here you can see on this chart that our development activity has really increased. We have so many new contributors, and this has continued to increase. We are still 3 times higher above the other average, and this is actually even higher this was written a couple of weeks ago. So that was really exciting. We learned these new developers need training specific to Hyro, specific to DLTs or decentralized technologies in general. What are protobufs, how are network calls handled, and things like that. Here we see lots and lots of development activity, 115 merged pull requests. And then the next chunk of the presentation is what I really want to discuss is what we have done in response to Hacktoberfest. So we were really, really overwhelmed with so much wonderful interest and people really wanting to get started. And as we said, we really value timely feedback, informative feedback, helpful feedback. And to be able to do that, it was initially quite a manual process. So what we have done since is automate quite a lot of the initial maintainer tasks. We believe this is a better approach than doing it manually because we can be consistent, we can be fair. Everybody has the same access to the same information. We can respond immediately because it's automated. And we have clear links to the updated documentation all the time. So we have added robots for all kinds of initial onboarding things for good first issue starters. So your commits are not verified. Please read these documentations. Please look at the Discord, the LFDT Discord for help. We have scripts to help us identify good first issues. I will show you some more bots as well. We have a bot that helps people learn why their checks failed and what to do about it. We have the one about your commits are not verified. We have another one saying that you can't merge your pull request yet. You have a merge conflict. This is how to solve it. We also say we have an office hour happening in a few hours. Join if you have any questions. So that automates some of the marketing side. We are also testing out using Copilot as an initial reviewer. And Copilot is arguably better than humans at identifying things like typos and obviously doing reviews faster. So while we can request new reviewers coming in, we still have to wait a little bit of time, even if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes for somebody to make an initial review, but Copilot is able to do it within 5 minutes and is able to pick up on a lot of really important aspects. Rolling that out is a little bit difficult. I think that will require some permissions higher up inside Hiro, maybe LFDT, but it's something that we are testing. You can see here, Copilot is able to give you feedback on, this method is incorrect. You should use the other one. The other syntax is more accurate. And as a result of this, our new starters are making progress really quickly. So here's an example of Akshat. Akshat has even actually helped to create some of these bots. Jessica says Copilot is amazing for reviews. I use it all the time. Yeah. I don't use Copilot exactly, but I love AI. I think it really helps to complement checking the code of what you do. So Akshat here was a new starter and actually helped to create some of these bots. So he's creating a bot that automatically archives pull requests if they are stale. You can see that because of the bots, we have the new developers actually fixing their own stumbling blocks that they faced, and that was without any intervention, and that was within a few minutes. So we're seeing lots of the developers build skills really quickly. So here's another one. Prajita is able to fix this merge conflict by themselves. And we've also worked to improve the good first issue template. So in Hacktoberfest, we were doing a lot of this quite manually. We had like a Word document where we would just kind of copy paste things, but it wasn't as consistent. Now that's changed. Now we have a nice template. Now it automatically pre-fills, nice looking, well formatted with URLs, consistent, so it's fair. Everyone has access to the same information, the same opportunity. So we have like step-by-step contribution guides with all the steps that you need and reference the documentation. It's a nice checklist. It looks nice. We have additional information. And now actually I've been helping to roll that over throughout Hiro in a more general way, but that template innovation is something that I have been working on. So now when you create a good first issue, you just literally fill in these 3 short sections and it does the rest for you automatically. So that's something that we learned recently that we could do. We have examples with what we require in each section. So our good first issues are actually really great now, if I may say so myself. So this is an example of some of our old good first issues, which were working really well. But now they're much better. Now they have all this formatting, all these links. We've also started to work on a training course. So we are around 11% completed through this, We do require help to be able to finish the rest of it, but this is, from my point of view, one of the first times that we are making like a SDK developer focused training course instead of like a developing using the SDK. It's more like training for how to develop the SDK. So we are 11% through that. We've got community members making their own training. Here is a training on transaction lifecycle made by another community member. And this is the setup training that was added recently. Now that I have some more free time because I'm not spending as much time doing the initial reviews, I can spend some more time doing the training as well. We are considering applying for mentorship, an LFX mentorship to help with some of our missing functionality. And we've made some great progress at nurturing new maintainers. So very recently, we submitted a proposal to create a new triage role. And I like to call that kind of like a junior committer role. And that was created because many of our initial starters wanted to get more involved, but didn't feel confident taking on a full committer role because you have write ability. So that's the ability to merge pull requests, and that's scary because you have to be very, very confident that everything's correct. And if you're just starting out, maybe you don't have that confidence yet. So we added this triage role, which helps you to do most of the things that a committer can do. See, Aaron, you've got your thumbs up, and but it doesn't let you merge. And that's been really popular. I have had an overwhelming number of people interested in joining and in having this triage role responsibility. So these are our first 3 triage role members. We now have 4, and I will be applying for another 3. And you can see them here reviewing this pull request of Akshat8510, who is making an automation bot. Akshat was a new starter roughly around 1 month ago. And here you have our 3 triage members reviewing this same pull request. So this is so great to see. As a maintainer, I'm now able to spend more time making the infrastructure that really people care about. And yeah, it's been really nice to see this. So here's another example. This merge conflict helper pull request is being reviewed by our triage members kind of immediately, and maybe they are even debating themselves. And here's a nice graph where you can see how when we started Good First Issues, really. We actually only started this in June of 2025. The idea of a Good First Issue, to me, that was new. But we decided to start it, and we learned about Hacktoberfest nearly around October, and we just decided to do it. And it's been wonderful to see how successful it is. I mean, GitHub is so good at marketing Good First Issues. It's attracted an overwhelming amount of new developers. And actually, I wanted to show you, if I could just take another 5 minutes and figure out how to escape from here. Inside the Python SDK, we now have 74 contributors in total, and we have 103 people who have been working on it. So that's been really, really nice. And this has been just a change really in the last few months, facilitated through that. I'm actually doing some analytics for Hyro in general. This is just my initiative based on my desire to understand Good First Issues. And this has been submitted to the governance repo inside the Hyro ledger. It's an existing pull request. But by analyzing Good First Issues and comparing it to new starters, what I want to be able to demonstrate is Good First Issues are fantastic at getting new contributors onto the project. Okay, well, thank you very much. I think that's it from my presentation. This is very much an evolving presentation. I recognize I've taken up a good share of time. Thank you for listening to me. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them or any comments.
All right. Thanks, Sophie. Any questions for Sophie? Matthew?
Hi. Yeah, thanks, Soph. That was really, really interesting. Thanks for taking the time to present that. I wondered uh, how much time do you feel you have had to kind of give making sure all of this continues to happen and be successful? Is it a big part of your time keeping this process going, or do you feel like a lot of what you've described is now kind of running itself and doesn't require a lot of ongoing curation by you?
I think if we compare to the level of support that we were offering to new starters in October, I think 90% of that is automated. All you need to do now is review the final pull requests, basically, and say the code is correct or not. So in terms of that, I think it's automated. I did work full time to be able to get there because we had to create several bots. I think we have 6 different bots already merged, and we have like 6 other pull request checks. So, but it's also I see an opportunity where we continue to grow, and where we are now is very different to where we are in October. So we have, for example, new developers that are in the pipeline to become committers and eventually maybe even maintainers. And so now there's a challenge of how do we train them? How do we give them enough exposure to review these new issues? So I personally enjoy the kind of maintenance process, and I believe just from like a review perspective, that's mostly automated. But yeah, I still think that there's things that we can do to further improve the onboarding. So one of the things that I believe we can do is improve the training, which is what I was describing here. We really need training to be able to nurture these intermediate developers. And that's something that I want to solve. I want to solve most of the automation issues. I think we have quite a lot of them done, maybe 85% of it done, but we still need to finish closing up all the pull requests, stale pull requests, assigning people, and so on. We have those in the pipeline. They will be merged hopefully in the next week or so. And it's just testing to see how that works, and testing if we really are able to continue to nurture these new developers. Ultimately, for the SDK to run itself, we need to create like a feedback loop where the good first issues are being created organically, and the intermediate issues are created as well, and everyone who joins here has the real opportunity to progress. So now, as we were saying, like now you can create good first issues sort of at a click of a button nearly. So that's a lot better. But yeah, there's still a couple of things left to sort out in my opinion, and I think that's something that Hyro in general, or maybe the LFDT in general, would be able to benefit. Some of the workflow, some of the documentation, some of the training that we've highlighted how important it is, and we've been able to see that it really matters.
That's really interesting. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was what I was wondering as you were going through your presentation, and your answer was how much of this could be recreated in other projects, whether they're TAC projects or other open source projects. To what extent other LFDT projects can look at some of what you've done and start to adopt it. But yeah, thank you. I think Dan's got her hand up.
Yeah, I think that's one of the goals of not only showing what we've done in Hyro, but also of having Sophie come here is I'd like to see if we can genericize some of this so that it's the documentation, the good fierce issues, some of the automation is reusable on other projects across the LFDT. It's, you know, we've got a lot of little sub projects. There's a great digital initiative, digital identity initiative, and some SDK hubs under Hyro. That's really where I think we're going to start pushing this next, as well as get the training done. But I think this is something that has been really successful, very driven by Sophie and Hendrik and Jessica, and they've done an amazing job. But I think it's a great lesson, and they've done really good work documenting all of this. So I think it'll make it easy if other projects want to adopt it. So I'm not sure how we move that forward, but that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, technically speaking, all these bots are generic. They don't say Python SDK. They just take the repository name. So I mean, these could just sort of be copied over. I think Enrique has his hand up. I don't know if Marcus was
I think Marcus was first.
first. Sorry.
Yeah. So first of all, I mean, Sophie, thanks for presenting this. This is really cool stuff. So actually, I was wondering if you have some good advice, I mean, general advice, lessons learned from that Oktoberfest in terms of what identifies a good first issue. I mean, were there maybe first issue, good issues you identified, which you later realized, well, they're actually too difficult, too hard, or boring, or nobody picks those? Is there something where some kind of metrics you use to identify, okay, what is a good first issue which is reasonable for someone joining new?
For sure. We do have scripts that do this, but I think the best explanation will just probably be in words. So because the workflow is still long and it's new, if you're a closed source developer, a lot of this step-by-step contribution process will be new to you, and it's difficult. The first day is difficult for a new developer, even though we have all these documentations that clearly tell them what to do step by step. So what we found is any feature change or addition that requires testing is usually too hard for a good first issue, because not only do they need to figure out the signing and the branch process, the forking process, they also need to learn testing infrastructure, and that's difficult because that requires a broad knowledge of the code base, basically, to know where to pull files in. So immediately I have discarded anything that requires testing. So a good first issue for me doesn't tend to be a feature change, so not a source code change. Most of our good first issues that were successful were actually example changes. So what we have done in our code base is the examples. We have added so many examples. You know, you can't see them here because they're organized inside files, but this is just an example for token transactions, and we have examples for everything. So we have a script that compares our source code and identifies what do we not have examples. So firstly, creating examples. And each of these examples, good first issues were just to add things like doc strings, add things like comments. But I personally also really like the idea of making sure the examples are split into lots of separate individual functions. So that way the developers don't need to know how to import things. They can just use existing examples that work, and then they just move them around, or they add documentation. So examples has really been something that is, I think was underdeveloped by us. And the new starters have really been able to have fantastic contributions to examples. And I really think that we have such a wealth of examples that have been created by many of these good first issue starters. And that's something that we wouldn't have without them, because it does take time. but now they're nice and consistent in everything. So examples really is the main.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you so much.
Enrique?
Hey, Sophie, this is awesome. I guess maybe you've answered it in your last part, but I found maintaining a project that most of the first good issues are retrospectively tagged as first good issues. So sometimes we'll find a bug in a UI, we'll find a bug in an API. How much have you had success in retroactive good first issues where the person creating them first has done a bug diagnosis, then we've diagnosed what happened, then we figured out a fix, and then we start a good first issue over using your template directly? And my follow-up question would be, I tend to use first good issues as well to onboard people into the code base, not just like give them something like all around the edges. Samples is a great version of this, but I also want them to maybe look at the internals of the code base and contribute it that way. Have you found success with those sorts of good first issues? Yeah, I don't know if you have any metrics there of like which first good first issues get abandoned, never picked up, over which ones get picked up and get contributed.
Okay, so there are some source code changes that we have been successful at creating good first issues. That's usually extremely specific. So for example, something also generic that isn't DLT specific. So for example, it would be, can you create a way of printing the information in this file in a prettier way? So creating a string function. But we still have to say in general what that will mean, because maybe we have some specific classes or specific ways of coding it that isn't necessarily generic and is kind of like this. We will also tend to have to guide them with how to do the tests. So for example, what we expect from a good first issue is something that's really documented. So we actually say like, okay, if we are going to suggest a new string function, we tell them roughly what to do. We won't give them the answer, but it will roughly tell them exactly what they need to do. And in the proposed solution, we will tell them, okay, this is what we want you to do. We would want you to create a function here. And if we have to test it, then we would say, we need this test, we need this test, we need this test, it needs to do this, it needs to do this. So the good first issue would be probably more of an investment for the source code things, but that's something that has worked before because it's so specific. In terms of things that have not been successful, we have recently we pushed a bot, and this has unassigned a few people because they were stale. So we do have some examples. Something that we found did not work at all was creating examples from scratch. Because it's really difficult to create an example. You have to understand how Hedera works. If I want to create a custom fee royalty, I need to create a token, I need to create an account, I need to create a key, I need to do all of these things, and I need to connect to the Hedera network. This is really overwhelming for a new starter, even though for me at the time, this sounded like, okay, this is easy. We have lots of examples of other functions being good first. Other examples being created. Of course, they can just look at an example and know how to do this, but we were hit quite hard with that when we realized that that's actually a really difficult task. So that's something that's not successful. So anything that pulls DLT specific or that pulls too much functionality from the repository can be overwhelming. We are still a young SDK, so our error handling is robust, but it's not necessarily detailed or that informative. So it's quite hard for a new starter to be able to debug possibly the multitude of things that they face, which pull in lots of different files. Yeah, so even in the examples have failed. Even file renames have also failed, even though we have been very specific with that. I can't remember exactly why this one failed, but I think it was to do with the workflows required some other complementary changes that we didn't notice at the time when I documented this. So because I didn't document it, the Good First Issues developer didn't realize that they had to fix it. For me, I assumed, for me, I didn't even think about it. Of course, you would have to do it, but that's it. So quite often it's just not sufficiently enough documentation for the Good First issue. That's why retroactively, I actually have not had much success. If I close down an issue, if I have an issue that hasn't been successful, I will typically close it. And if I really do believe it's a Good First issue, I will create it again using the template, because we don't really have good insights into what makes Good First issues like stall or fail. It could be a variety of different issues, and we can talk to the people, but we can just talk to one developer at the time. We don't know really the whole story. So we just want to make it as easy as possible so that everybody is able to contribute in a fair way. So if an issue is closed, I will open it in a more specialized way with even more guidance. So maybe some of the things that we have been considering Good First issues are actually intermediate issues.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. I guess what I struggle with are a couple of things here. And it's not the approach itself, it's just the whole concept around Good First issues is sometimes projects maintainers already are quite limited in time. So them taking the time and effort to explain a very detailed way, they might have the mindset of, I'll just do it myself because it'll be quicker than having to document this whole thing. Or the other mindset that I see is the solution of a Good First issue sometimes comes out in the wash. You don't really know when you're writing it as a Good First issue. You're kind of sizing the piece of work and the area that you think is good for someone to contribute in as a first comer. But actually the solution of how you solve it comes through the implementation, so that you cannot put that much detail into the issue already knowing how someone's going to implement it. And I think that's something that I always look at, because when I want committers into the project that eventually want to be maintainers, I want to think about how are they solving the problem? How are they thinking about the code base? How are they following the good practices of the code base, etc.? Instead of what I've had recently a lot in Firefly is what I call AI slop. People just coming around and raising typos and fixes for issues are raised, but not solve them in the way that the code base is structured as. So yeah, thanks for sharing. I'm just trying to balance how as a TAC we actually help spread the word of this and recommend. I think it's a great, fantastic step what you guys are doing in Hyro. Like I'm definitely up for the template coming into Firefly for sure. And the wider community. So yeah, just wanted to share those concerns I've seen the last few years in Firefly.
Yeah, I think the solution to that is to be even simpler with Good First issues. Hands down, that's what works. So for example, just a rename of some files is a Good First issue. I've talked with a lot of these developers, and it's just so hard to just get through the workflows, to get through the signing, to get through the forking, the branching, all of this kind of thing is so hard in itself. Many people are just asking, they're literally commenting, hey, I'm a good developer, but I'm not comfortable with the open source workflow. Can I contribute to this? So really Good First issues should just be like, as they are being defined, I think it's first time issues. It's just, okay, just to get you started.
Yeah, so I would probably just say that what you're looking at is first timers contributing to open source versus what might be considered a good issue after they've already done their first contribution, right? So the first contribution is just understanding that workflow. And then the second contribution is fixing the easy bugs within the source code, right? That maybe are where you want to take this. I know we had a couple other items on the agenda today. Hendrik, I see, yeah, exactly, Enrique, first OSS issue. Hendrik, you have your hand up, but just before we get to your question, Hendrik, David and Matthew, you were the other two items on the agenda. David to talk about the Maintainer Day agenda, and Matthew to close out the PR that we had for the task force. I know next week we're going to do some handover to the new TAC. I'm wondering if these fit into next week or if they actually fall into the first meetings of the new year. Thoughts from David and Matthew?
I'm flexible. I would just say if people want to take a look at the draft Maintainer Day agenda, it's on the wiki and we can have a discussion either next week or early January. So I'm flexible.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Matthew?
Yeah, I was going to say, I owe the TAC an update on my PR, which I'm pretty sure I could do in time for next week's TAC, and maybe we just try and skim through it and close it out then.
Okay, sounds good. So Hendrik, you have the last 3 minutes if you wanted to add some comments on what we've been talking about with first good issues.
Yeah, so it's not a question. I just wanted to add a comment regarding the last points you discussed. So yeah, I totally agree and think creating good first issues is work in, getting a more diverse community, and it's nothing that will help to solve technical stuff. For that, we have those good first, second issues, maybe, as you call it. And I totally agree that it's work to create it, and we invested a lot of work into that, and the outcome is not about, oh, now we have great issues fixed. The outcome is really about, oh, now we have new contributors here. And I think that's the most important point from my point of view, why we should do it.
Okay, let me not talk on mute. So thank you, Sophie, for the presentation. I think it brought up definitely a lot of good conversation around what sorts of issues might make good first issues versus maybe good first contributor issues. So I think, obviously this is something for each project to look at. And I think Hendrik's comment about looking for new contributors is really the focus here. So, maybe those first OSS issues are where we should be thinking about just helping people get it, understanding the workflow, the sign-offs that are required and that sort of thing. So I think with that, we'll go ahead and close out today's meeting. Again, next week we'll be meeting with the new TAC members, answering any questions that they have and just giving them an overview of kind of the open items where we're leaving things for the next TAC to take on and move forward. So with that, I will talk to you all again next week.
Great. Thanks, all.
Thank you. And thanks again, Sophie.
Bye.